We're going to get ready for reading, so I need reading notebooks out. I know. We need to do a little reviewing. Tomorrow you're going to have a quiz over author's purpose. Okay? So reading notebook out, and you should have this written in your notebook. So I want you to turn to that page. I'll give you a second here to get that ready.
I missed one day at school and my brain is already not filled with learning stuff. Thingy. That's usually what happens when I miss a day.
All right, reading notebooks out. Turn to this page. Let's talk about author's purpose. What is it? Riker, any masks on? Because we're going to have some conversations here. Please, masks on. What is author's purpose?
Oh, wait. It's right here.
Riker, what's author's purpose?
Author's purpose is what the author wants you to feel, or if you read the story, say it's about explaining. He wants you to kind of know.
Okay. Why the author's writing it, right? He has a purpose. He wants you to gain something from it. Okay, and that's the purpose for them to write it. Sometimes stories are just for entertaining, right? Sometimes they just want to give you a story that's fun to read, right? Sometimes they want to give you information, okay, about a certain topic. Okay, information textbooks are usually filled with facts. Okay, maybe they're describing something, okay? Describing something like a pie, right? They're going to use senses. Explaining, they're going to tell you how to build something, how to do something. And then persuading, they're trying to convince you of something. Okay, so different reasons. Let's think about, we just read the Birch Bark House. I want you to think about that story with Omachias and the bears. Of these options here, where would the Birch Bark House fall? Maya? Okay, why? Right, so they were telling us a story about Omachias, right? Something that happened to her. There was lots of dialogue, right? There were really no facts necessarily. Okay, it was definitely an entertaining story. What else did that story do? It entertained us. That was the main purpose, but what else was the author hoping you would gain from that story, Adam? Not describing, not necessarily off of here. They did do a good job of describing, didn't they, though? Okay, lots of descriptive words in there, especially when she encounters the bear. Okay, so that's not totally out of the question. What else? They were entertaining us. What else did they want us to gain from that? You wanna? A lesson, right? They were entertaining, hoping you'd pick up on that lesson that Omachias learned. Okay, maybe you would learn a little bit from it. But its main purpose was to entertain, right? Okay. What other story did we read? We've read 2 on the book.
It was about horses and stuff.
Oh, that's right, the vaqueros. Forgot about that one. It was the first one we read. Where would that one fall here? What would that one be, John? Right, that would definitely be informed, right? They were informing us about a topic. That topic was the first cowboys, the vaqueros. Okay? Definitely informative. Okay? So those were longer texts that you had to read. Okay? We just talked about the purpose here. That's what you're going to do today. I've got some longer passages that you're going to read. They're all about penguins, different things. Okay?
I love penguins.
And you're going to decide what the author's purpose is for each of those different passages. Okay? You also should have glued into your notebook this. Remember this? This checklist? Okay, I would encourage you to use that. It's asking you questions. If you check yes, then there's a good chance it's describe. If you check no, then you're going to keep looking. What happens if I have 2 that I marked yes? What should I do, Nick?
When like 2 for
Yeah, if I maybe check mark describe and inform, I check both those yes. What do I need to do?
Wait, are you talking about if it's on one, like,
Yeah, on one passage.
well, what do you mean?
So, for instance, Adam mentioned describe for Birch Bark House, and we talked about entertain, right? He could have checked both of those boxes. He's like, oh, yeah, she really described that bear, right? The encounter with the bear. And then he's like, oh, but this is pretty entertaining story. I better check yes there as well. Okay, because it hits those boxes. So how would I then eliminate that it wasn't described, but it was more entertaining? Go ahead, Nick.
You read and, like, try to narrow down the story a little bit.
Right, so I'm going to try and narrow it down, right? What are some things I'm going to think about when I'm doing that? What am I going to look at to help me decide which one it is? Think about your reading and thinking voice. What's your reading and thinking voice doing while you're reading this story? Looking for clues, right? Looking for details. So if you go back to this previous screen, and it's going to be harder to... Let me see. If I go back here, remember this tells me what they are, right? What they should have. So if I think it's describe, what does it have to have if it's describing? What does it have to have throughout the story that it's describing? You wanna?
All your senses.
A lot of descriptive sentences, right? Your senses, yeah, all your senses. It may not have all of them, but it should have a good portion of them. And that should be throughout the entire story. Is that throughout the entire story of Birch Bark House? No, they do a really good job when she encounters the bear, right? So they're not trying to necessarily describe something to us, okay? They are, why do they want us to understand the bear? Why do they want to describe that so much to us? Ava? So it's like what? Right, we can see how Omachias felt. We can kind of put ourselves in her place, right? And see what she was experiencing, how fierce that bear was. So that was the purpose for the author to describe that particular section the way they did. Maybe your eyes up here, please. Okay? But we go back to entertain. So we talked about dialogue, there's characters, there's plot, right? It was fiction. So that's where that one falls into. So, back to the checklist. If I check 2, what am I looking for in that story? I have to read the whole story and I need to find what to help support my choice. John? Evidence. So if you recall, in lesson 22 on the test, you had a question that asked you what the theme was, right? And it gave you some options and you had to select one. From there, the next question said, support that, right? Tell me why you think that is the theme. What else did it tell you? Go back to lesson 22. You can open that submission. It's still open. Look at, I think it's question 20 or 21 towards the bottom. It said, support your choice for theme in the previous question. What else did it say? It made a suggestion to you. Lesson 22 in reading. The Birch Bark House test. Yep, so go to submissions, click on view assessment, and you should be able to see all your answers. You should be able to see feedback that I gave, if I did give you full credit for those last 2. What does it ask, or what does it suggest? I think it's question 21. Ioana, what does it suggest?
Use complete sentences. May remember evidence is details from the author.
Mm-hmm.
Need at least 2 pieces of evidence to support your claim.
What else did it say? You need at least 2 pieces of evidence.
To support your answer.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't it have something else down there? Keep reading for me.
We can't find 2, then we think we close.
Right. It suggested complete sentences, which isn't a suggestion. That's what you should always do. It said 2 pieces of evidence, right? You had to find at least 2. And it said if you can't find 2 pieces to support the theme, maybe you need to go back to that question and rethink which one you picked. Okay, if the evidence isn't there to support it, does that mean it's the right answer or the best answer? No, I'm getting some head shakes. No, it's not. Okay, we might need to rethink that. While we're on that test and we're looking, question 22 said to use 5 sentences, right? That was kind of your own, tell me something that you would do if you got in a situation like Omachias, and it said you had to have 5 sentences. Some of you did not. Some of you had fragments, but you would put a period at the end, so that way it looked like 5 sentences, but it's not 5 sentences. Okay, so you have to make sure you're using complete sentences. Okay, if you start with a prepositional phrase or introduction phrase, it gets a comma and then has to keep going. All right, that was probably the biggest thing, or we just didn't use 5 sentences. Okay, or we didn't answer the question at all that it was that being asked while we're on that. Okay, so make sure when you're answering those questions, we're reading it carefully and doing what it asks. Okay, other questions about author's purpose. Questions about Lesson 22 test now that you're looking at it. And I would encourage you to look at it all the time. After I grade it, pull it up and look. It should kind of remind you like, hey, you have some feedback here. Okay, to look at those tests and see what you need to work on, because that'll help with the next test that we take. Okay, I type in information, I give you feedback. If I don't give you the full credit for that question, I try to let you know why. Otherwise, if I just mark it wrong, it doesn't do you any good. Okay? All right. No questions then with that?
No.
All right, so I'm going to show you,
Oh, you're gonna show us something?
I'm going to show you something.
Yay.
Well, I can't. My screen is blank. Hang on.
An ocean. I like seeing stuff.
It does kind of look, look like an ocean, doesn't it? This is what I'm going to show you. In reading, your assignment is in the author's purpose folder, like it normally has been this week. Okay, and I opened today this Penguin Passages. So I need you to look. I don't need you on your iPad right now. I just need you to look. Okay? So this is what you see, right, when you open that assignment. These are the directions. Okay, don't just click Start New Attempt. You should always read these directions that are there. Because it says download the Penguin Passages below. Okay, they're right here. So I have to open those first. So I'm going to click on it. It's going to send it down here. There they are. Okay, there are 5 of them. Here they are. Okay, I'm going to go back to Schoology. Now you can do your split screen, okay? And then I'm going to keep reading. Read each passage and then write down the answer on a sheet of paper. So there's a passage, at the end of the passage there's a question on that paper that I just downloaded, and I'll show you in a minute. So write them down. Okay, then you're going to come here and you're going to hit Start New Attempt. And notice, I don't have a bunch of stuff in here because it was too much to put in there and upload all that. It was easier for me to do them separate. Okay, so this goes with passage 1. And it's marked passage 1, they're in order. Okay, it was about the Emperor Penguins. That's the first one. So you have to decide A, B, C, or D. See why you need to read them, write your answer down, and then come here and record? Because I don't know what to check. There's nothing there, right? Just opening this tells me nothing. So let's do this. I should be able to split screen mine.
This long.
Yes.
We did this in Miss house like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Perfect. So then you should be fine with this. So here you have.
We get
Here I have it. You can do it this way. Okay, this is number 1. I'm going to read it. These are my choices. So this A goes with this A. This B goes with this B, and so on. Make sense? So if I read this and I'm like, oh, this is probably D, so I'm going to click D here. Okay? So D. Now I'm going to go to my next one. This one's marked 2. See the 2 up here? 2 goes with this 2. I'm going to read it. I'm going to decide. I'm going to make my choice. 5 times. Okay?
Thank you.
So I set it up a little differently because this is so big, and then I think it's easier for you to split screen and look at it this way.
How do you split screen it though?
Okay? Split screen, you got to swipe up. You got to open both first.
Well, I can't but they're both in Schoology.
Well, you have to go back to, you're going to open this. Where did this go when I opened it?
You can put it in Notability.
It's going to open it up in, it should download it as like a picture.
No, in
Okay,
You
so
can
then
put a notability on the screen.
you should be able to send it out.
It doesn't have the arrow down here.
I can't. I just screen.
Well, then you might have to write it, so you might have to write them down like I suggested, and then go back here and do this.
You could put it in
Okay,
notability.
however you can work it.
That's too complicated.
And you might be able to open, if you do it this way, you could open Schoology in the app if it's working, and then open this in Schoology on the website, and split screen it that way.
That's very big brain.
Okay? It's an option. Or look at this, record your answer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then come here and do that.
No, Miss, when
Okay.
you said that, you're like, no.
That's not a big brain thing. That's just like a experience thing.
To me, it's a
That's
very-
something I do because I use technology all the time.
It's super big brain
Okay.
if you're me.
All right. Other questions about this assignment and how to get to it and work it? All right, so I'm gonna let you work
Train of
for
thought.
today. Remember, reading quiz tomorrow.
Cool,